MatchPoint eDossier is an easy-to-use, web-based, and SharePoint-based dossier management system. It's seamlessly integrated with Microsoft Office and SharePoint and makes users more productive in all kinds of file and case management scenarios. In this overview page, the user has a list of dossiers where he can have direct access to his cases. There are different views that allow him to switch between different kinds of cases, and there is also a task aggregation that allows the user to see what he has to do in each specific case without having to open the dossier. On the right-hand side, you see a refinement panel, which allows the user to refine the dossier list further, and he can use any kind of metadata to do this, such as, for example, a business unit or a phase in which the case is currently standing. And as you can see, the update is immediate. Also, there is a details view that shows the user more information about a selected dossier. On the left side here, you can see the metadata navigation. It is a specific MatchPoint component that is only available in MatchPoint eDossier. The metadata navigation allows the user to navigate through the dossiers by using the classification of the dossier. So it makes the views and the lists of the dossiers independent of the physical structure of the dossier. As you can also see, there is a breadcrumb navigation that is always consistent with the metadata navigation to the left. And the metadata navigation is always available on top as well, to go, for example, back to another point in the classification system. If you want to create a new dossier, just click this Add Item icon, and you will be in a form that is also provided by MatchPoint, and you can then enter the dossier specifics, like the dossier title, for example, and any kind of metadata, and also the registration into the classification system. If you know the classification, you can just start typing and the eDossier system will present you possible selections. Or you can also browse the classification system for easy access of entries that you don't know. The user enters all the required metadata for the dossier, and he can also add people who should work and have a role in the dossier, and this based on business roles. So I can pick, for example, some of my colleagues here from the Active Directory, and they will immediately get an invitation to the dossier and also have their permissions set automatically. The whole creation process is based on self-site creation and on SharePoint site templates. As you can see here, the dossier has already been created, and I can also immediately access the dossier. What also happens in the background is that MatchPoint eDossier is automatically assigning a dossier ID that is unique throughout the whole system, as well as creating a URL and dossier title. Once in the dossier, you can see that all the master data that you have entered while creating the dossier is still here and available for editing, if you have the corresponding role, of course. You can also edit status information about a dossier, for example, the status in the process, in which phase you are, or the confidentiality of the dossier. Of course, using the breadcrumb, you can always navigate back to the overview where we have been before. I will enter another dossier now that we have already created earlier, and I will show you some of the main tools that the dossier template provides. You can, for example, have selective or comprehensive workflow support in a dossier. Then, of course, you can create all kinds of SharePoint items, like, for example, a task. I create a new task here and I assign the task to someone in my team, in this case, to myself. I save it and it will be immediately available and visible in my task overview here. I can also upload documents to the dossier. This is just the normal way of doing it in SharePoint by selecting, for example, something from your desktop and uploading it to the dossier. What is a special feature of MatchPoint eDossier is that all the metadata that is already set on the dossier can be inherited to the documents that are uploaded. So as you can see, there is inheritable metadata like the unit or confidentiality that cannot be influenced by the user, or other inherited metadata like the phase that could be influenced. Back to the root level of the dossiers, you can also have different views on your list of dossiers. For this, we have created a new page that gives you, in this case, a view based by submitter. A dossier in this application is submitted by someone and then treated by someone else. So if you go to this view, you can click through the names of the submitters, and to the right, you see which dossiers they have. You can also enter a submitter page that is in fact a virtual dossier that is based on a search result and on metadata filtering. And in here you see an overview again with all the details but taken from a submitter point of view. Another example of different views is the eDossier dashboard. The dashboard is also based on the same list that you had before, only that you have several charts showing different analysis values based on this list. The charts are immediately modified if you change, for example, the view, or if you do a selective analysis by just selecting distinct dossiers here in the left of this list. Hand in hand with the views goes the search. The search allows you a further analysis of your dossiers. The MatchPoint search has the advantage that you can immediately start with metadata search. So for example, I can start entering the name of a department like the Economic and Social Committee, and I will immediately receive information from dossiers of the specific unit here. What you can also do is you can save searches and make them available to colleagues, and of course also reuse them. And what is also very practical is that you can access role and process information to filter. So for example, I can enter my name and I see that I have 2 different roles in the dossiers. In this case, I am only interested in the dossiers where I am in charge, and I immediately get an overview of everything where this is the case. Of course, you can also use a standard refinement and, for example, see that there are dossiers from a certain classification, or that there are dossiers from a certain unit, and so on. The same is possible with process information. So I could go, for example, enter the name of a phase. I have to browse, like for example for the processing phase, and I immediately see the content of the dossiers that are in the processing phase. Behind the scenes, you will discover that everything I have just shown you is based on a centralized XML configuration. Once in the configuration area of MatchPoint eDossier, you have access to all the web part configurations, to all workflows, templates, timer jobs, and what else there is, and you can edit them from here through our very comfortable XML editor. For example here, you have the list of dossiers that you have seen before with all the columns, with the different views, and so on. What is also interesting is that everything you configure here is multilingual by default, and is very easy to change and deploy. You also have versioning of each single configuration. Everything is also template-based. That means you can reuse it across various Dossier applications, and you can also make sure that there is no access to this part of the configurations for end users. So as a wrap-up, you could say that what we have seen now is a very useful, very user-friendly, and easy-to-learn application to manage all kinds of dossier and case management applications. It is based on a standardized architecture where each dossier is a SharePoint site collection and each sub-dossier is a SharePoint site. That makes it highly scalable and also secure. On top of this standardized architecture, we have a flexible, configurable surface with reusable components that are centrally administered and don't require custom code. And of course, MatchPoint eDossier is according to the most important standards in records management and business administration.